You will not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness within you conscious. I am Carl Jung, a psychiatrist, yes, but above all, a man tormented by the same doubts as you. I spent years studying the mind because I desperately needed to understand my own. Let me tell you something that might shock you. The man who became famous for understanding the human psyche was once a broken soul, drowning in his own psychological chaos. The same theories that would later help millions of people were born from my personal hell. For decades, I dove into the mysteries of the human psyche not as a distant observer, but as someone desperate for answers. Every patient I treated was a mirror reflecting my own fractured soul. Every dream I analyzed revealed pieces of myself I'd rather not see. Every breakthrough they had reminded me of the breakthrough I desperately needed. I remember the nights I would wake up in cold sweats, haunted by visions I couldn't explain, dreams so vivid and terrifying that I questioned my own sanity. There were moments I wondered if I was losing my mind, if the very profession I had chosen was a symptom of my own madness. There was a part of me I hated with every fiber of my being, deep fears that paralyzed me in the middle of the night, making me feel like a fraud standing before my colleagues, rage that boiled when no one was watching, a fury so intense it scared me, dark impulses I tried to hide not just from the world, but from myself, thoughts that made me question whether I was truly a good person. I believed that if I could just bury these parts deep enough, if I could just focus on helping others and studying the mind, they would simply disappear. I thought that by becoming an expert on human psychology, I could somehow transcend my own psychological struggles. How wrong I was. But I discovered something that changed everything, something that would become the foundation of everything I would later teach. Everything you avoid gains power in the darkness. The pain you hide is exactly what dominates you. The more I denied my shadow, the more it controlled my decisions from the underground of my consciousness. The more I ran from my demons, the louder they whispered in my ear during moments of supposed triumph. Success felt hollow because I knew I was only showing the world half of who I was. The more I tried to be the perfect doctor, the perfect intellectual, the perfect human being, the more something inside me rebelled. I saw this pattern everywhere around me. I saw this in my patients too. Brilliant people who sabotaged themselves repeatedly. People who had everything they needed to be happy, but something invisible always pulled them back into familiar patterns of suffering. They came to me seeking light, desperate for someone to show them the way out of their darkness. But the answer wasn't where any of us thought it would be. There was Maria, a talented artist who destroyed every painting she created before anyone could see it. There was Heinrich, a businessman who had every opportunity for success, but somehow always found a way to fail at the last moment. There was Elizabeth, a woman capable of deep love who pushed away everyone who got too close. That all came to me thinking their problem was external. They wanted me to help them change their circumstances, their relationships, their careers. But what I slowly began to realize was that they were all fighting the same war. I was fighting a war against themselves. The breakthrough came when I stopped running from myself, when I finally turned around and faced the monster I'd been fleeing my entire life. What I found in that confrontation wasn't a monster at all, but a wounded child, a part of me that had been screaming for attention, acting out because it felt abandoned and rejected. I began to understand that my shadow, that dark, rejected part of myself, wasn't evil. It was simply unexpressed, unintegrated, unacknowledged. It contained all the parts of my personality that didn't fit the image I wanted to project to the world. The secret isn't to erase your shadows. It's to integrate them, to accept that there's a wolf inside you and learn to tame it, not by chaining it up in the basement of your consciousness, but by understanding what it needs, what it's hungry for, what it's trying to protect. Your shadow contains your rejected parts, yes, but it also holds your untapped power, your unexpressed creativity, your authentic strength. The very things you're most ashamed of might be your greatest strengths in disguise, waiting to be transformed and channeled constructively. Your anger might be passion, waiting to be channeled towards something meaningful. Your selfishness might be healthy self-preservation that you've never learned to express appropriately. Your darkness might be depth and intensity you've never allowed yourself to explore because you were afraid of what you might find. I learned to have conversations with my shadow instead of trying to silence it or push it away. I began to ask it what it wanted, what it was trying to tell me. I started treating it not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a part of myself that needed understanding and integration. Slowly, gradually, something miraculous began to happen. I began to feel whole for the first time in my life. Not perfect. I was never interested in perfection, but complete. Not pure light, but fully human. Not without darkness, but no longer afraid of it. The parts of myself I had spent years trying to hide became sources of strength. My sensitivity, which I had seen as weakness, became the foundation of my empathy with patience. My own psychological struggles became the very thing that allowed me to understand and help others who were struggling. My periods of doubt and confusion, rather than being signs of failure, became necessary journeys into the unknown territories of the human soul. My darkness became my depth. My wounds became my wisdom. My shadows became my teachers. If you feel lost right now, if there's something in you that sabotages your own life, I want you to listen carefully. Look with courage at what you've been avoiding. It's not the world that's blocking you from your dreams and happiness. It's the part of yourself you refuse to hear. The voice you've been silencing since childhood. Your symptoms aren't random occurrences. Your patterns aren't meaningless accidents. They're messages from the parts of you that desperately need attention. The relationship that keeps failing isn't bad luck. It's showing you something about how to relate to yourself. The opportunities you keep missing aren't evidence of your inadequacy. They're signs that part of you doesn't believe you deserve success. The dreams you keep abandoning aren't proof that you're not talented enough. They're indicators that some part of you is afraid of what might happen if you actually succeeded, if you actually became who you're meant to be. Stop fighting yourself. The war you're waging against your own nature is the source of your suffering. Start listening instead. Begin a dialogue with the parts of yourself you've rejected. Ask them what they need, what they're afraid of, what they're trying to protect you from. The enemy you think lives inside you might just be an ally you've never properly met. The shadow you've been running from your entire life might be the teacher you've been searching for in books, in other people, in external authorities. The wholeness you seek isn't found by becoming perfect or by eliminating your flaws. It's found by embracing all of who you are, light and dark, strength and weakness, conscious and unconscious. It's found by becoming conscious of your unconscious, by making the invisible visible, by integrating what has been disintegrated. This is the most difficult work you will ever do, but it's also the most important. It's the difference between living your life and being lived by forces you don't understand. It's the difference between being the author of your own story and being a character in a story, written by your unconscious fears and desires. Know yourself, or you'll spend your life being dominated by a stranger who lives inside you. The shadow you avoid is the master you need. If this makes sense to you, if something inside you recognizes the truth in these words, maybe you're ready to look deeper. Maybe you're ready to stop running and start integrating. And here, in this journey of self-discovery, you're never alone. Learn from the masters who walked this path before you, but most importantly, learn from yourself.